submitting your private evaluation report to the school, what you can expect next. So you've made a decision. This is for the parents that made the decision. I am going to go seek a private evaluation. Now I have my report. I encourage you to share it with the school district. On top of that, do not do both at the same time. Valeria and I were talking about that earlier. I have had several scenarios where parents think that they're being cute. I understand why you might want to do that, and I'm not judging you. There's no mom or dad shame here, but you are invalidating the evaluations when you do that, because evaluations that are done within the same time period, they are not valid. And when that comes out, and if it ever comes out, and trust me, I can tell you a lot of scenarios where it ends up coming out, especially if you ever, God forbid, and I hope you never do, have to go to due process. You can have, these things come out. And also you want accurate, valid data to change the life and to help your child. You don't want to be a person that's participating in prohibiting valid data from being available to everybody that works with your child, including yourself. So please, please, please make a choice and do one or the other. And that doesn't mean that you can't do the other later. And that doesn't mean that other kinds of evaluations that are not the same as the one that was done in a certain time period can't be done. Actually, Valeria taught me a little bit about that, and hopefully we'll talk about that on another slide as well. But once you do have that report and you submit that to the school, you're going to formally submit it. You still need to write that email. You still need to document that you submitted the report. I asked my parents to ask for a receipt of submission so that there's a proof and a date of when you submitted the report. Okay, that's very important. They need to convene a meeting with you within 3 weeks thereafter from you submitting the report. And at that meeting, there needs to be a school psychologist. The school psychologist needs to take the report to his or her supervisor. They need to comprehensively review that report that you submitted. By law, it needs to be considered in educational planning, okay? That doesn't mean that they need to do everything that your report says, and it doesn't mean that every recommendation in your report that they have to put into the IEP or the 504 plan. No, that's not what it means. But the law says that they must thoroughly consider your report. And then they have 60 days from the time that you give them consent to review it to not only review your report, but also to determine any additional evaluations that they need to consider for two purposes: for educational planning purposes and for the purpose of determining program eligibility. Then, after the 60-day period, they need to provide you with a copy of their report, which integrates your report with whatever other assessments or evaluations that they did. And then they need to convene a meeting with you to go over the results of your report with a school psychologist, somebody who is qualified to interpret the report. And then they need to, on that same day, or it doesn't have to be on that same day, it could be a separate day. They usually like to do it on the same day. They need to determine IEP or Section 504 eligibility. And they should be going through the eligibility criteria with you, not just announcing to you that they're eligible or ineligible. A student can be eligible for one or more programs. And then they need to either write an appropriate IEP, or they need to determine that the student is not eligible for an IEP. And if they're eligible for under Section 504, then they need to provide the student with reasonable accommodations, which usually comes in the form of a document called a 504 plan.